I'm Adam Ennis.
And I'm Peter Barton.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music advice coming at you.
Coming at you today, sponsored by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com for your jazz lesson
And he's
needs.
back 2024 style.
I can't stop. I cannot stop.
Okay, this is the beginning of the year,
Yes.
right? It actually is the beginning of 2024.
True.
You were talking about this earlier, that you didn't think that this number was real, but it's real.
Doesn't seem real to me.
Isn't it interesting, though, how time is the one constant that keeps moving.
Yeah.
And like you say, 2020, I remember when I was like 2000 never going to happen. I remember 2000 was like crazy.
Seems so far away.
It seems so far away. The
like
world
that
was
Prince
Y2K.
song, the
Yeah.
1999. I was like, 1999 is a made-up
Right.
year. Yeah.
And here we are in 2024. But what's exciting about this for me and this journey with music and with, trying to like get better and not just be passionate about music. I think we're all passionate about music. That's why we meet here.
I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, it's one thing to love to listen to music. It's like a universal language, as we said. There's all these different styles, and that's fun. But what a fun thing to be like trying to play music, trying to be participating in music. It's like you're watching golf all your life on television, and one day you go out onto the green. Is that what they call it? The green? Or is that just the color of what it is?
Well, there's the tee, there's the fairway, there's the green, there's the bunker, there's the clubhouse.
Oh.
There's all sorts of parts of the golf course.
Excuse me, Bubba Watson. Didn't know you knew all that. Yeah, so, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like once you go to participate in it, you're not going to be Bubba Watson. Wait, does he play golf?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he good?
Yeah, he's great.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So it was a good analogy. Like you're not going to immediately, but you're going to be a golfer that day.
Did he get in trouble? He might have gotten in
Oh,
trouble.
did he? Oh, sorry. I don't know anything about golf.
I mean, neither.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like once you step out onto the green with the equipment in your hand. So like once we become musicians and we're going and thinking about things like what we're talking about today, practice routines and stuff, like it's really exciting, but it gets real.
Yeah,
kind of
for
like
real.
the clock going to 2024. It's like, it's real now. And I think that in order to keep the joy going, in order to keep us from getting too frustrated, and at least the kind of frustration that would derail us from progress and connection with the music, we want to think about things like practice routine and take them pretty seriously and not just be like, well, I'm not a pro, I'm not this, or I'm not as good as them, blah, blah, blah. No. This is about you.
Yeah.
And this is about, so we're getting a little dogmatic in the title today, why you don't have a practice routine. But that's in the hopes that it'll inspire you to have a practice routine.
Well, if I may, Peter. So much of our musical mind and what we dream about when we dream about being a musician and being about dream about being a great musician, right, is like some sort of identity dream, right? Where we're dreaming it far into the future, and now we sound just like Chick Corea or whomever it is that we're aspiring to sound like.
Dreamweaver.
Oh, he's got a little Dreamweaver.
For the stars, because I'm a Dreamweaver.
Is that how that sound goes? Something like that. No. But our identity, this is just like something we're making up, right?
Yeah,
It's a
construct.
fantasy. It's a construct that we're making up.
Yeah.
What we actually are is our behavior on a moment-to-moment basis. Like that's what we are. So when you talk about 7 reasons you don't have a practice routine, these are ideas like we're going into the negative so that we can try to draw out a positive. These might be reasons that are kind of keeping you from the behaviors that great musicians tend to all have in common, right? Which is that they work on music
Yes.
every single day
Yep.
in every single way. I just said that because it was a rhyme. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not just like some construct of like, well, I can just think about being a great musician and I can just have, good taste in music and then I'll be a great musician. No, you actually have to like live a musical life. You have to behave in ways that great musicians behave if you want to be a great musician. It's really that simple. And hopefully these 7 things that we're going to talk about are a little bit of some roadblocks that might be stopping you from behaving in the way that great musicians behave every day.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's why sometimes it's easier. Like some people will reject things that are seemingly negative and be like, why are you being so negative about this? It's kind of, I look at it as similar. Like if you're trying to get to the goal of having a great practice routine, first, just have a practice routine.
Anything will
Let
do.
greatness evolve. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's like, New Year's resolutions. I remember reading this thing. I can't remember who came up with it, but it resonated so much with me, and I've been using it the last few years. And that's like, try anti-resolutions instead of resolutions. Think about things that you're not going to do, that you're going to adjust. Because, I've always been kind of had a love-hate relationship with resolutions. But we can all identify things that are roadblocks or habits that we want to remove. Sometimes those are easier, and then they create the white space for some good habits.
Take things away and let yourself be as it is, and great things will happen. If you truly love music and you take things away, they're blocking you from working on the thing that you love.
Yep.
it will happen.
Absolutely. And really it's sometimes it kind of exposes and reveals a beautiful simplicity and a playfulness that I know you're great about talking about this and connecting with, living a musical life and like that inner child with our initial connection with music. These things that we develop that are actually bad habits, they may be masked as good habits, but they're in fact bad habits, or at least they're counterproductive for having a good practice routine. We have to consciously remove some of those things. And then actually the practicing is not that hard. Of course, there's the discipline of it and the execution of it. But a lot of times when we take these things around it that make it harder, like how do you get started and things like that, it can become a lot easier. So hopefully we'll reveal some of those in our own little negative way today.
Well, let's start with number 1 here, because this is, I think, a major roadblock for a lot of people.
Yep.
And it is certainly for me, and it's procrastination.
Right. But before we talk about that, can we talk about some other things?
Okay.
Can we procrastinate before we talk about? I'm
Sure.
trying to show you an example of it.
Oh, you're going to put it off. Yeah, I get it. I was a little slow. That's number 2, is how slow
Let's
I am.
talk about the weather.
No, yeah. So it's a great example, Peter.
working.
Yeah, of like, you're wanting to get down to business. You're wanting to get to work. But I got like 3 hours here, so I don't have to start right now, right?
Right.
I could just chill out, watch some Sopranos, maybe have a protein shake. I don't know what you drink, Peter. and then maybe I'll get my hour of practice in or
Yeah.
whatever. Get your work done. I tell my children, get it done,
Right.
and then go have fun.
Right. Oh, I love that. And that's going to relate to something we're going to talk about, I think, in the later ones. But it's also like if you put an importance on having a practice routine, then that's the thing that you're going to do first. Now, you're not going to do it first, maybe, ahead of things like if you have an infant or something, feeding them. And of course, there's very, very important. You're going to prioritize your thing.
Yeah.
We're not saying to but like your example, it's like a lot of times when we have extra time, that's the hardest time to have a routine. It should be the easiest.
Oh, man.
Think about people that want to develop a practice routine, but they're single parent. They've got little kids. They've got 2 jobs and all that.
Yeah. I mean, if I get a day off, it's actually harder to practice.
Most unproductive day ever.
100%, because I
Right.
just want to kind of procrastinate until nothing happens.
But that's the whole thing about a routine. If you're into a routine, it won't matter either way. Because yes, if you have 1 hour available, you're probably going to optimize to get to your practicing better. I mean, unless you just have other blockades that we're going to look at as well. But yeah, procrastinating is a huge one.
And number 2, this is something that I don't really know anything about, but I'm sure other people struggle with it, and that's perfectionism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problems with this.
Well, this is kind of more about like having the perfect situation to practice. The sun has to be coming around. I need the best lighting. The piano's out of tune, so I can't practice. Like there's all sorts of things. This is just variations on procrastination.
Yes.
But they can be masked and cloaked on, with things that are like, oh no, it's really important because I want to develop my ears. And I've fallen into this. Like if one note unison's out of tune, I'm like, oh, that's throwing me off. I can't really get to and it's like, no, there's always going to be something. Doesn't matter what level you're at, what instrument you have, what, space that I think back to some of my most productive practice was years ago at Juilliard School of Music that everyone's like, oh, they must have great practice rooms. They were horrible because you could hear everything around there and everybody practiced too much there.
Yeah.
It was like constant, but I got a lot of stuff done because that was the only situation that I had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people are banging on the pianos and they're out of tune.
I think some of this too, a lot of people, at least we have a lot of open studio folks that write in and they're scared to practice the wrong thing, right? So it's like they need the perfect thing to practice or else it's not going to be worth it because I don't want to go do the wrong thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, we always want to be practicing like quote unquote the right thing, although I don't actually think that's true. I think that
you don't have to practice the right thing all the time.
No.
We've proven that.
You need to sometimes you have to put your head up against a brick wall and go through it and figure out what is the right thing before you can, always optimize whatever.
Yeah.
But don't be scared to go practice, even if you don't know what to practice.
Yeah.
Just go sit at your instrument and say, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to play something for 5 minutes.
Right.
Guaranteed you're going to find something to practice out of that 5 minutes.
Great. Okay. So that flows right into number 3. For the reasons that you don't have a practice routine, and that is over planning, which seems like the same as perfection, but it's not really. Like this is more like you've got such a perfect plan, or it's too much of a plan, and that you're not allowing for things to go wrong or things to go right, even more importantly. So like you've got the perfect routine coming along. Now you feel good about it. You're like, I'm not looking for perfection because I've got it already. I just have to go through and do this. But that you're going to lose out on a great practice routine because something that's going really well, you're going to cut that off because you're like, I have to go on to the next thing. So it's like we want to plan, but we want it to be flexible. We want to allow for serendipity. We want to allow, especially for us to get into the flow state, because happy practicing really is what I think is the biggest hallmark of, or really just entry point and ongoing, way to keep a practice routine, like the easiest way to keep a practice routine going.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people say like, oh, that's the end result. Like once you've been doing a practice routine, you get to where it's all, unicorns running through a beautiful meadow. It's like, no, you have to do that as you're going. And so until you have a perfect practice routine, which is actually not possible, but until you're close to that, you've got to be able to be in the flow state a lot so that you feel like and are de facto improving, right? And so if you don't have flexibility within there, you're not going to be able to get that. It's going to be frustrating.
Don't schedule every minute out. Just like you wouldn't schedule every minute of your child. You shouldn't schedule every minute of your child every day. Like you got to leave some time for play, for actual just exploration and letting your child that's still a part of you have fun on your instrument. Don't feel like everything needs to be, the optimization culture is gone too far.
Right.
Here. It's gone too far.
It has.
You need to leave time to just mess around.
I still love Dr. Huberman, but yes, you're correct.
You know what I'm saying? Next up, number 4 is inconsistency.
Right. So this, I think, comes right out of that too. So the flip side of like over planning, then you're just like, oh, I'll just kind of go with the flow, dude. Cool. Now that can lead to inconsistency because you got to have some plan, right? You have to have something. It just needs to have flexibility to it because otherwise you're going to be inconsistent because you're going to be thinking, I have to feel a certain way, as opposed to sometimes you just need, like, let me just get in and practice my scales. You need some triggers for consistency because it's not a routine unless you're doing it in a routine way.
Yeah. And just really, honestly, if you commit, say that in January, which is what we are, I'm going to practice at least 5 minutes a day, every day. That is really good work.
Yes.
Because
and that's consistent.
That is consistent. It's practicing consistency. It's like no matter what happens, I'm going to carve a little bit of time out of my day so that I could get to do the thing that I love. I get to work on the part of my existence that I love the most, which is experiencing and expressing music through this instrument. And that brings us to number 6.
And can I just throw in one thing that I found helpful? This may not be for everybody, but I'll throw it out there in case it's helpful for some people in terms of inconsistency. If you're going on a good flow every day, even if it's 5 minutes, if it's 30 minutes one day, whatever that is, if you miss a day, do not let that make you inconsistent. One day does not make, and then, do you ever think you'd hear me saying this?
No.
Am I getting soft?
You're getting a little soft.
Is this Mongolian cashmere making me soft?
It is very soft. Wasn't it you that used to say you can miss a day, but don't miss 2 days?
That's it. Yeah. That's it. I found that now maybe for some people it's 3 days, maybe it's different, but the idea is like give yourself grace and know that consistency is not about a streak, right? It's about, but when you get past, it's cumulative, but it's also about, it does get harder when you miss even one day. But I found especially 2 days is not twice as bad. It's like 10 times
This is
bad.
Mr. I ran over 500 days in a row.
Right, but I didn't run fast all those days.
Yeah, you didn't run like
I didn't
long
run far.
all those days. Yeah.
A couple of days I did. But many of those days was like, but yeah, I made a commitment to do because I wanted to see what that felt like. And then when I came off the streak, what I did find was missing one day was bad. Missing 2 days got really difficult to get back on track. So it's just give yourself some grace. Do not consider one day miss as inconsistent, but don't miss that second day if possible.
Number 5, not number 6, but number 5 is you're not listening to enough music. Peter, check this out. This is a new phrase I just came up with.
Yep.
You got to ingest to digest.
Ooh.
Or else you'll regress.
Grow up. Oh, regress. Sorry. I thought you could say it. Nice. That's true.
Yeah. So I often find that if I'm struggling with a practice routine, it's because I'm not feeling super inspired. And not that you have to be super inspired every time you practice. In fact, if you're consistent, you're not going to be inspired every single day that you practice. However,
and if you wait to be inspired every time, you're going to procrastinate until you get there.
But it is easier for me to get there and actually to find things that I'm hyped about if I'm listening to a lot of music. Yeah. So you can actually use this as your practice routine. You could say like, I don't know what to practice. You know what? I'm gonna listen to an album instead. I'm just gonna like do some
listening?
critical deep listening.
Deep listening
instead of practicing at my instrument.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you're gonna listen deeply, and then you're gonna go to your instrument because you're inspired by something.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And it's kind of like making, as it should be, and a reminder for ourselves that listening to music is the reward. Whether you're listening to a recording, going to a live performance, playing yourself, like that's the physical manifestation of our relationship with music is listening to it in real time. And so I think even like some of the things we mentioned earlier, I would just throw in there, make those as a reward too. That'll be sort of the antithesis of the to keep you from procrastinating. Like say, if you're listening to this podcast to learn about how to practice instead of, you know what, pause this now, go practice, and then come back and do this as a reward. It doesn't have to be an either or, but don't feel like you have to optimize everything. You have to listen to this podcast. You have to read another book before you practice. But you can still do that and learn things, but make that as an after, like as a reward.
Number 6, Peter.
Yes.
Overwhelm.
Yes.
People, they get overwhelmed.
That's right.
They don't know. There's so much to practice.
And that can kill a practice routine.
It can be really, or they just are like, oh, I got these, Johari Stampley sounds so good. I'll never sound like that. There's too much to do. There's too much to work on, whatever.
Yep.
I'll just go play video games or whatever.
So this could tie in good to when you're saying, number 5, you're not listening enough. Listen to something that's not going to overwhelm you, that's going to bring you joy.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could listen to something like Johari and be like, oh my God, he's so young and so great. It's not worth it. But listen to something that you have a deep connection with that inspires you, maybe.
I mean, maybe you're inspired by Johari. I don't want to put...
For sure.
But yes.
Something that doesn't overwhelm you.
If you're feeling overwhelmed, sometimes it can be hard to commit to working on music. But just know that even if you just chip away on major scale fingerings, like that's something that's very useful and that professional musicians work on their whole lives. So don't feel like you have to build Rome in a day. Definitely do not.
Right.
You definitely don't have to come out sounding like, Sullivan Fortner after every practice session. You just slowly...
Young guys up in your head, aren't they?
Slowly, we keep saying Sullivan's young, but he's like
remember him as
mid-30s.
15, man. I'm old. I'm an OG. Old guy.
All right, number 7.
Number 7, and this truly is just confusingly listed, is actually the number 1 reason you don't have a practice routine, and that is because you are too cocky and you don't think you need a routine.
You'll hear it. No.
Exactly.
That is this from personal experience?
This is I'm being very self-reflected as we enter the new year for sure.
Yeah.
And this has tripped me up a lot. So this is kind of advanced level, I would say, in terms of practice routine. Just because you have a stretch where you've got a great routine or streak going, don't get cocky. Or as the youngins say, and by youngins I mean 40-year-old pianists, don't get it twisted, my friend. You always need some kind of routine. If that's a reduced routine, if that's an enhanced routine, if that's a weekly, whatever it is, you need some kind of practice routine to stay connected with the instrument, to stay connected with your progress. That's why it's called practice. It's not mastery, right?
That's right.
We're going towards that. And so I think it's like, don't get cocky once you start going, because kind of like your example you said with your kids when they're like, oh, we got plenty of time, let's play around. But no, tend to your business first, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Humble yourself.
The electricity is going to go out. Your 3 hours just became nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, take care of business, keep on your routine. Don't be cocky. Be humble before the music.
Yeah. Maybe you had a great gig last night and you're like, oh man, I'm burning. This is fine. Right. I don't need to work.
Yeah.
Maybe get to the piano today. Just try that out. See how it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, till next time.
You'll hear it. Wait, let's recap. Hold on. Come back, Caleb.
Oh, we're still rolling.
Yeah.
Wait, is this our first ever comeback? Can we do it?
We can do it.
Are we back? We are back.
Hey, we're back.
Thank you for tuning in.
I wanted to recap.
Okay, let's do it.
Ready? Number one.
Wait, we got to frame this.
Okay.
Why you don't have a practice routine?
Procrastination.
You procrastinate. Right.
2.
You're looking for perfection.
3.
You overplan.
4.
You're inconsistent.
5.
You're not listening enough.
6.
You're overwhelmed.
7.
You're too cocky.
8.
You'll hear it.